Hey there viewers, my name's Torinski and welcome back to another DCSS Sunday. Today we're going to be jumping back into the usual, trying our very best to get a victory with every single species in the game here. Where we last left off, we had a pretty good run at human, managing to get a win on our second try, which is better than our usual streaks as of late. But with that behind us, we're ready to move on to the next species here, in Kobold, our favorite lizard, dog, rat things. Definitely a classic creature here, so I have to come up with a new name. And as for what we're going to be running here, as mentioned at the very end of our last stream, we've had a few different suggestions pop up over the months that we've been on this quest. And so I think I'm going to run through them in order here. The first of those being a Kobold berserker. It's been quite a while since we talked about it on stream here, but it definitely is one of my classic favorites from back in the day when I first started playing. I used to be a huge fan of some of the less obvious choices for berserkers, some of the smaller species, and going with a more evasion build than just throw on the tankiest thing that we can get. So let's try that out, and save it you're showing up just in time to, as always, provide us with a fantastic name to use on our little buddy here. We'll probably be starting off with short swords, so we can take advantage of this incredible aptitude that kobolds have with it, and then most likely at some point in our future switching over to long blades, but hey, depends on what the dungeon throws at us and where we go moving forward here. So for now, let's pop on a short sword, and immediately we'll take Savid's suggestion here. We'll Kobe beef, and hopefully we can make it through with good old beef here. Without further ado, let us begin. Ooh, definitely an interesting start to our dungeon. A little bit sketchy, because as soon as we open these doors, we're going to have a whole lot of angles for enemies to come crawling out of the woodwork at us. But as always, we'll pop into our skills here, probably turn off our defensive ones, at least for now, for the time being here, and really get that short sword, or short blade skill rather, trained up as soon as possible down to minimum delay attack speed. And that looks great, so we can pop into our pickups. The two things that we want to keep in mind with kobolds is the fact that, much like back when we were playing with a halfling before they got removed from the game here, we are a smaller species, so we're unable to use some of the larger weapons in the game. Some of the medium-sized weapons will actually count as a two-hander for a kobold here. Things like double swords and tridents are two-handed weapons instead of just one. And we are unable to use tower shields and have to train up quite a bit more even to use kite and buckler shields. So keep that in mind. The second feature of the kobolds here is the Night Stalker mutation right off the start. So if we take a peek, it's not super obvious right now because we're in an enclosed room, but rather than the usual 7 space sightlines that we're used to on most characters, kobolds have it reduced by 3 down to just 4 spaces in every direction. So it means we're seeing fewer enemies, which is usually a good thing, but it of course also means that there's slightly less distance for set enemies to cross before they're right up in our faces. So it's an advantage and a disadvantage for sure. It makes it a lot easier to sneak up to things and get some nice free stabs in, so hopefully we can take advantage of that. And last but not least, before we get going, we'll do a quick dump file here, hop over and grab the seed to throw up on the screen, just in case any of you lovely folk want to try your hand at this yourselves. You can play along at home here. Go in and edit this text, hop that bad boy in, and perfect. So without further ado, we're ready to head into it. Delicious name, now can we scan into a quick blade? That's the plan. Wouldn't it be nice? D2 quick blade coming up. Oh right, I actually was confusing these doors with the ruined ones as well. For whatever reason, I expected as soon as you open one for the entire box to pop open on all sides and to be absolutely inundated with creatures, but scratch that. We're actually looking okay here. Does Night Stalker stack with Scarf of Shadows to 3-tile visibility? Not sure if you could take that. It's a great question. Maybe we'll run into one this game and we can try it out ourselves. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't think they stack because that does seem like a pretty ridiculous combo. I mean, imagine if you get your stealth score high enough that you're just backstabbing everything left and right with a 2 or 3 space vision radius. Absolutely wild. Ooh. An early dart slug, actually doing a ridiculous amount of damage. Of course, one small feature, or another feature rather, of the small build on this character is that we will gain a bonus to evasion, so we're going to have a bit of a harder time. We're in certain armors, especially with the relatively low strength score for the character, but on the flip side, we'll be gaining a whole lot of evasion as we train up here. On top of that, we have a pretty awesome aptitude for it at +2. In fact, maybe we can do a quick look through all the skills at just some of the most obvious aptitude bonuses that we're going to try and take advantage of. We mentioned the short blades being a +3 is absolutely huge. We also have really good aptitudes with crossbows and decent with throwing as well, so hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that. Maybe get a good hand crossbow that we can quick swap tune from. Yep. Oh geez, choking on my own spit a little bit, apologies. Alternatively though, gaining a lot of boomerangs in the early game mean that training throwing might be advantageous. The one issue that we have with ranged combat is that limited line of sight. Usually you want to start engaging with enemies when they're as far away as possible, soften them up. By the time they cross the 7 spaces to you, they're already pretty much dead. We're not quite going to be able to take advantage of that, though it's always nice to get in that extra damage, even if it's not quite as effective as it otherwise might be. And hopefully we'll be able to also use that against our ranged enemies, seeing as how they'll have a harder time getting in quite as many shots as we close the gap. The last couple things we want to look at though, dodging, quite a nice aptitude. We actually have 0 aptitudes across all spellcasting, so if we weren't playing as a berserker, that might be a nice place to pivot to at some stage in the game. If this character dies, heaven forbid, then we might have to be trying that out a little bit with a hex-based build that maybe transitions into some other school of magic. But the last thing that I really enjoy about Kobolds here, +2 on evocations, is going to be pretty fantastic. I'm a huge fan of evocables, so hopefully we can find some early wands, maybe even some early rechargeable items, and we can take full advantage of that. The +4 stealth doesn't hurt either, especially with the Night Stalker adaptation. And with that in mind, we'll get back to it here, hopefully not run into anything too scary in the early dungeon. We saw how nasty that dart slug could be at level 1 here. We'll be switching up to leather as soon as we find it. That's definitely not going to impede our evasion too much. It just gives us slightly better defensive capabilities. Dart slug, not quite as sketchy as our first encounter. That's good. Oh, don't open the door. Whoops. Dang auto fight. Didn't exactly take me in the direction I expected there, but we're all good. As we've seen before in some of the evasion-based characters, we're going to be struggling with a little bit of variable damage, by which I just mean that some fights will make it through completely unscathed, thinking that we're invincible. Then as soon as we get hit even once by a stronger monster, we're going to be having some doubts about that, because it is a bit more up to random chance whether or not we take damage in each and every fight that we come across. Less guaranteed damage resistance, but that high variability can hopefully work out to our advantage, and we can dodge all the truly nasty effects coming our way. Would be nice. We'll keep moving through here. We probably won't be taking advantage of our berserker status too much in the early game unless things go horribly wrong. Ideally, we can just skip and hop our way through the majority of these first few floors here. If we do run into something slightly scarier, we of course very much have the option to just walk away, or if that's completely unavailable, get into a berserk state and just start whacking. Do come across some more sling bullets, so I'm hoping to potentially take advantage of the early sling we found. maybe do some of that target softening that we were talking about earlier. Because even though it's not the +2 or +1 aptitudes of crossbows and throwing, slings is still not too bad for a kobold starting off here. We do hit the next level of piety pips with Trog here, of course giving us access to Trog's Hand, one of the better god-given abilities in the game here. The regeneration is definitely pretty nice, but the main thing is willpower on demand, which will hopefully prevent us from running into a lot of issues that we suffered in our previous character, Human, who was just constantly at risk of being paralyzed, sent to the abyss, what have you. Howdy, how's this going? Hey Shaper, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Going pretty well so far. We are indeed a Kobold berserker here, paying a bit of homage to my classic favorites, the roots that I used to enjoy oh so dearly. I'm also going to walk back this way, make sure that we're on an extreme end of the level, hopefully for the very first message to pop up. And there we see it, the slow resting of a very distant drain. That means that we can start crossing the level here, head to maybe the bottom right corner, and see if that gets us closer to the special timed gate here. Sewer is always a nice one to find early on, usually has some half decent treasure, as well as being slightly more straightforward to take out. We do see the just distant message now, which does imply that we're getting closer. Don't want to head out too far here. In fact, we might have already run too far in this direction. Let's start heading back. It's still labeled as distant, so maybe it's somewhere adjacent to both of these locations that we've been to. We need to triangulate down to a common denominator here. You really love Kobold with any background of Wujian Council. It's free stab so often with Serpent's Lash. You love it? That sounds very cool. Yeah, I wanted to do Berserker because it used to be one of my favorites back in the day, and a while back we had some friends talking about their love of running the same background combo here, so we're happy to try it out once more, but with a few losses here, we're definitely going to be shopping around, maybe trying a few different options. So it might be fun to go with the Wujian Council, especially if we do go for like a hexer-based background on our second attempt, something like that. We can try and take full advantage of free stabs. Especially since I'm not too familiar with Wujian Council, so I think it'd be a good excuse to try something new, have a bit of fun, maybe find a new favorite for myself. Someone turned you on to, you're very cautious at first and wasn't sure if it's strong or so. Suddenly you won. Nice. You did Kobold Berserker, but yeah, anything is... Or you did a Kobold Brigand, but yeah, anything is probably fine. Nice. Okay. Early adder here. We obviously don't have any of our anti-poison potions enabled yet, so this is where we definitely could go with an early Berserk. Make sure that we're in a good place. Kobold, not Kobold, rather Trog's Hand is another decent, or at least half decent, solution to poison, because the extra regeneration we get from that will hopefully counteract all but the worst of early game poisoning. We'll have to see. No, it made you a fan of Wujian Council and you weren't before? Very cool. I'll have to try it out sometime. You hear Berserk will soon cost piety. Interesting, Pooperidge. I don't know. Yeah, if I've heard about that. I'm not really keeping up with the changes these days, but it would make sense. It is kind of easy. Without hunger being in the game any longer, you can kind of spam Berserk in any encounter as long as you think that you'll be safe after it finishes. So I could see it being interesting. I don't think I use Berserk enough for it to be a huge deal. I mostly love Trog for Trog's Hand, and Brother-in-Arms is another really nice panic button in the future. But we'll have to see how that affects the game. Keep trying to make a Kobold Sniper work, Safid. Right? It's fun with crossbows, and I know like once in the past, oh geez, we don't manage to kill off our snake. I'm gonna do an early Trog's Hand here. Trying to get that regeneration coming our way. Unfortunately, us being slowed is going to be a little sketchy against the worm here. It can hit for up to 12 damage, so we are in lethal territory now. Also, of course, slowed from our berserk, so maybe it wasn't quite as good of a choice as I was hoping. Unfortunately, the adder dodged the majority of our strikes here, so we're immediately in panic territory. The worm is slow, and in fact very slow, so could potentially run away and see if we keep pace with it. Perfect. Run away. It's trivial, they also removed the paralysis chance after berserk. It's just an overall balance. Oh, interesting. Gaining distance even, right? That definitely surprised me. I thought that we were going to be slightly too slow for that to matter. Okie dokie. What do we wish to do? We could switch over to our hunting sling with some sling bullets. Hope that we do enough damage. I don't really want to have to leave here. Would be unfortunate, so let's try that out. See on the first blush how this does for us. Can also re-engage Trog's hand if we wanted. Maybe get slightly more health back before they close the gap. We're almost back to one-hit territory, so that's not great. Can even double check on the worm here that they have a 48% chance to hit us, so it's going to be a coin flip each and every time here. Relatively small odds that we get one shot out of existence at the very least. So let's use up the last of our piety. Oops. Also accidentally waited a turn instead of using our sling. Not great. We're in water too. Surprises all of us. Okie dokie. Unfortunately, I stayed committed here. Maybe not the greatest efficacy, because we did end up taking a few more hits, getting back into sketchy territory. Can take a couple steps back, potentially try and give us some room. If we can get rid of that minus berserk status, we could try and berserk once more here, take out the worm nice and quick. I think regardless, I'm going to risk it. The regen off of Trog's hand still in effect, so that's doing some work. Last but not least, let's blind drink a potion, see what happens. Invisibility, bringing the worm's chance down to 29%. Could possibly juke around the worm. Not wrong, and we have a little bit of space to try and take advantage of if we do so. I mean, now with invisibility, I was even more happy with it. Hopefully we weren't going to take too much damage. Unfortunately, I did walk into water, which made our invisibility less effective. Rookie mistake from me, and we did take a big hit on poor old Kobe. I'm so sorry, bud. Never got a chance to shine. Unfortunately, that's an early end to our attempt. Not my best move. We didn't have any healing potions on us, so the blind chugs weren't likely to do much. Fortunately, just some bad rolls, some poor decision making, all add up together into a horrible sandwich here. But that's okay. We always are expecting to lose characters, especially that early into the dungeon. It takes the pressure off from starting a new streak as well, because, hey, it's been a while since we got a good victory streak going. Why start now? So we'll probably switch off of this. My one question to maybe some of the lovely folks in chat. Do we want to give Berserker another shot here? Or do we want to switch it up and move on to the next category? Do you believe the next suggestion that I received, if we're going in order of recency, is to go with a bit more of a hex slinging kobold? So it'll probably be a mixture of hexes and stabbing and seeing how that goes. If anyone has any opinions, definitely let me know. Otherwise, maybe I'll flip a coin or something. Anything to prevent myself from having to actually make decisions. Let's pop off the name. Fortunately, Safed is still around to give us some solid name suggestions. Absolutely love it. And thank you so much, Shaper, for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. Bring your total up to 3. That's awesome. Hopefully Megaparsec is happy about that too. Do you have Fooperage cheering for stabs here? So we could get a little wacky. Maybe go with an Enchanter start, see if we can't start something kind of fun and silly going on. Shaper's vote is for a kobold with any background of Bujian. Then yeah, why the heck not? Let's start it now. Unfortunately, I do feel sorry for the poor berserker, never had a chance. Maybe we'll play a Spriggan berserker when we get there, just so that we can maybe get the evasion-based tiny ball of madness going. That sounds good to me. We'll try it out. This will be Conan, and just to keep things consistent here, Conan is going to be Kobe's long-lost brother from beyond the grave. Maybe even a twin. Conan is going to go in to avenge his brother, his fallen comrade. Spriggan Berserker's hilarious, I agree. It was Kobold Berserker and Spriggan Berserkers were my go-to favorite combos. Play what makes me happy, man. Cold puns are hard. I agree, I was trying to think of them earlier, and all I came to was less so on the pun side of things, and more just trying to make references to their nature as being kind of a mix between lizard-like, bit of canine attribute, maybe even rodent. So that was the best that I could come up with. I'm glad to have you around to make my job a little bit easier. Let's train up short blades. We could train some early stealth. Maybe we will keep it on just to try and play a little bit differently. So often I just fall into the usual subsets of either we're a blaster caster or we're sword and board, one or the other. It'll be fun to try out something a bit more unique, at least to me as a player here, maybe have some fun with it. Though I will say that I pretty much have fun playing any combo in this game, so that's what makes the decision so dang hard to make. Also, thank you so much, Glog, for following. I appreciate that a whole lot. Welcome to the channel here. Hopefully we can turn your fantastic support into some good luck moving forward here. As always, last but not least, let's grab the seed for the game here. Hopefully somebody can use this seed up on screen now, maybe do that run a little bit more justice. For all we knew, there were some D2 requirement scrolls just waiting to be picked up, still on the floor. But here's the new one. If anyone wants to play along at home, maybe show how much better you can handle the issues in the dungeon here. As for the Enchanter background, we start off with the Corona spell, so this will make enemies slightly easier to hit. Really nice against invisible enemies too, it will make them pop into existence for us. We take a look at our spellbook, we gain Ensorcelled Hibernation, which is going to allow us to forcefully put characters to sleep, maybe get some free stabs in. Confusing Touch can be relatively nice against certain targets, make sure we're slightly safer as they stumble around. Never really used Takima's Dance or Dazzling Flash, but maybe this will be the time for us to experiment a little. Get a little silly with it and have some fun. We'll see what the run holds. Oh, Corona rip. Is that a reference to the name itself? Or I believe that Corona is a spell that's being taken out in the near future, isn't it? It potentially is even already gone from Trunk? It is gone in 0.28. Okay, that's what I thought. Interesting. What do enchanters have at the start to make up for the lack there? And also, hello Railbird, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day here. I was super happy that we managed to bring our Railbird run out successfully on our last attempt previous Sunday here. Hopefully we can get some of that luck going on this character as well. Ooh, early crossbow bolts. That kind of bodes well for us. Wouldn't be half bad to find ourselves with some early crossbow action here. And you get one invisible potion instead of a spell. Interesting. Maybe not quite an even trade, but it is what it is. But I just hide in this corner, hope the jackal walks on by. Oh, unfortunately they saw us. That's too bad. Hit them with a quick Corona, make sure that they go down slightly easier. Not too bad so far. And you did it, you finally managed to streak 2 games of Human Fire Elementalists after 859 games. Well, that's a huge congratulations for me. That is spectacular. Glad you managed to get a streak going. We just failed ours here, but hey, where one streak ends, another can begin, right? That's the saying. And a ring of positive energy. Hey, maybe we can swing that to our advantage here. Always love me some positive vibes early on in the run. Also, thank you, Glog, for the host on the stream as well. I appreciate that. Kobold Ice Elementals in the future and call it Snowbold. Brave Warrior can be Snowbold or Brobold. Oh, Brobold for our berserker. Could have been a fun option. Missed opportunity. Or Worshipper of Gozad, that's Kobold. Definitely, if we have some trouble winning with the Kobold and have to resort to the tried and true method, we'll probably go with Kobold. Since Gozag seems to be my one-stop shop for actually winning runs with a fair amount of consistency. But until then, I do enjoy having a bit of fun with it, getting just a wee bit weird. Ooh, Glowing Dagger is a +2 dagger venom. That is pretty huge to start out. Can definitely try and pivot this into a successful build moving forward, especially if we can just poison that poor worm and walk away. Love to see it. Let's see, not drawing the attention of everyone so far, so we can just bring our new friend back a bit. Take them off 1 by 1, even 2 by 2 is not so bad. Perfect. Kobold with J is a Slowbold. Oh geez, not ready for our first adder encounter. Just leave me alone. Thank you, thank you. Maybe we'll try out Ensorcelled Hibernation. It's been a long time since I played an Enchanter, so I'm definitely lackluster in my knowledge of most of these hex spells, which just makes me more excited to use them. I find that when I get forced into a bit of a pigeonhole, it's when I finally learned the value of some of these abilities that I just ignore for the majority of runs. But perfect. It does put them to sleep just as we thought, so hopefully this will have a decent chance of taking effect, and we can use that to maybe defeat an early adder if it does come popping out at us here.